Yesterday I spoke about lesion nematodes, Pratylenchus species, which is considered the main nematode of economic importance in apples. But we know they also occur in stone fruit orchards, but what we don't know is how important in the scope of the whole plant parasitic nematode community they are. So in this project, we take a look at that. So once again, that's a root lesion nematode Pratylenchus. It's an endoparasite, so it occurs inside the root, and the damaging feeding of the roots leads to secondary infections and just poor growth in especially younger trees. So worldwide, the most important species known on stone fruit is Pratylenchus vulnus, but Pratylenchus penetrans is also known from cherry in Canada. So with this in mind, we did a survey where we looked at about 18 stone fruit producing regions, all the way from Langkloof, Klein Karoo up to Limpopo province. And all in all, we sampled representative soil and root samples from about 120 orchards, and we extracted the nematodes from them and proceeded further to the identification of these nematodes. So we identified them with molecular means using sequencing, DNA sequencing, as well as some species-specific primers that we implemented. The results of this can be seen in that pie chart there. So about 60% of our samples was all this one species, Pratylenchus vulnus, as predicted. 29% of the samples contained no lesion nematodes. And the rest of them, of the smaller wedges there, represent some other species of Pratylenchus that we suspect are opportunistic and originating from weeds and cover crops in the orchards. So mainly it's Pratylenchus vulnus. But in this process, we also extracted and identified some of the other plant parasitic nematodes in these orchards, and we looked at the relation between the Pratylenchus numbers and the other ones. So first of all, if we look at the prevalence, we can say that Pratylenchus is a fairly prevalent genus in these orchards, occurring in about 60% of the samples. But it's still less than the ring nematodes, which occurs in about 95% of samples that we took. If we have a look at the mean population density there, that we can see everything there pales in comparison to ring nematodes. So the mean population density there of the ring nematodes is almost 2,000 nematodes. That's per 250 cc of soil. And the root lesion nematodes is around just under 200, which is on the edge of being economically hurtful. But though that number is inflated by a small amount of where very high numbers of ring nematodes were found in some of the samples. If we look at the pie chart on the right there, this is the relative population density, which is a representation of the percentage that each plant parasitic nematode group comprises of the total, let's call it the total biomass of plant parasitic nematodes in those soils. And there, once again, you see the blue one there, ring nematodes, about 80% of nematodes, of plant parasitic nematodes in these orchards are ring nematodes, while the lesion nematodes are just under 10%. So all in all, the picture that we get here is that, for me, is that yes, Pratylenchus species is widely distributed in stone fruit orchards, but it's in comparison with ring nematodes, it's not the one we should worry about. If we go further on in this project, we also decided that we will test some of the rootstocks that's available for their susceptibility to the Pratylenchus. That's just a list that I compiled of what's known from literature with regards to root knot nematodes and ring nematodes for these rootstocks, and I left the question marks there with the lesion nematodes because as we speak, we are still waiting for the final analysis and evaluations to come in, so we still have to crunch the numbers. Then I'll can give a better answer there, but preliminary, I would say it doesn't look like there's any of these rootstocks that are in any way resistant to lesion nematodes, which is to expect it because I don't think any of them has really been designed for that. We also went one step further and we decided that we will have a look at cover crops, and we looking at this viewpoint that we don't want to use cover crops in orchards that will actually increase the nematode numbers. So this is now specifically looking at the ring nematodes, and the two species of ring nematodes we looked at there is Pratylenchus vulnus and Pratylenchus penetrans. And there's a couple of them, if I can maybe highlight, that are very good candidates to use as cover crops, including things like saya oats, the marigolds, I had to bring that in, and things like tillage radish and koorog, and some of the mustard plants are good candidates to use to guarantee you not to increase these species in the orchards. This data is a composition of work that we did specifically for this project, as well as previous work that was done for apples, as well as in other projects for potatoes. Okay, so before I conclude, there's an interesting side note that I thought I would mention to you with regards to the species of nematode that we find here. Pratylenchus vulnus, Pratylenchus vulnus, which is also known as the prevalent nematode in grapevines. So we did a similar project on grapevines, and in also 100 plus samples, we didn't find a single Pratylenchus vulnus in grapevine. And the species that we did find infecting 90% of the grapevines are the same one that's the prevalent one in apples. But the interesting part to me is that in our rootstock trials, where we infected grapevines with Pratylenchus vulnus that came from apple and stone fruit populations, so that we multiplied, there was almost no reproduction of Pratylenchus vulnus, of that Pratylenchus vulnus in grapevines, which to me means that we've got a geographical pathotype or populations that are adapted to apple and stone fruit. Okay, just lastly, I would just like to thank TCF, Rosenhof Kwekerij, for the rootstock material, and also Warenberg Seed for the cover crop seeds. Thank you.